All right, friends, in this lesson, we're going to export data to a basic API that we'll create using Node.js. The idea is to now access and package the data that we get from the Isar database, then we sync it and pass that data to our API that we'll create within the project. So first things first, let's head over to back to our project, and the main.dat, we're going to create a simple function called Isar to API, just below the previous function that we created. And we call it Isar to API. And we're going to have a few await operations within. So let's set it to async. So first things first, we are going to get the products from the data from the products collection. So to do that, we basically create a variable and state widget.isar.products .where .find all, and this will get all the records from the product collection. Right after that, now once we have the data will come in form of a list type product. What we want to do is convert it to list type map string dynamic, so that we get it in form of JSON object rather than type product, because our backend will not be able to recognize what type product is. So to do that, we'll head over to our collection product, and we're just going to create a simple function called to JSON. Inside here, just going to create a simple function where we'll be passing the product, and then we format it or restructure the product type into a map structure. To do that, we set map string dynamic to JSON. Have a function. So we have our attributes, we already have them. So we set ID to whatever we say, which is ID. For that, we need to create like its constructor over here. Product that holds the items in form of a JSON. So we say this.id, this.title, this.price, this.description, this.category, this.image, and this.rating. So back here, we'll be setting a key value of ID and picking the ID. Do the same thing to the rest. Title, give it title. Price, give it price. Description. So the key value, you can change it to whatever text you want to give it. I'm just maintaining it and making it uniform, so that when I head over to the backend, I don't have to rethink, okay, which type of what data was in this key value. We'll retain it as is. Then we have category, image. Remember, this image comes in form of a URL. Lastly, let's see. Rating. Remember, rating comes in form of an object. So we'll pick our rating and we'll also convert, because whatever will be coming on this rating will be will be of type rating, but our backend won't be able to recognize that data type. So we head over to our rating class and create for it also to JSON, which will format whatever the rating type to a map structure. So to do that, we'll set it as map string dynamic to JSON. Arrow function, we had rate, set it to key rate, and count. Great. Then we'll set its constructor. This dot count. When we come back here, whatever rating that we'll get, we convert it to .json. So let's set this to required. Let's see, the method to JSON can't. Okay. So I don't need to pass this unless when necessary. So we have this mapping. This will be used within this structure, but what we need is this product.json, and that's what we're going to use over here. So the moment we get our list type product, what we want to do is restructure it on how we're going to send it. So our backend to expect a type JSON object, and that's why we had to create that function. So now we set list map string dynamic, which represents our JSON objects. Then we set it to list products is equals to, we now get the product that we got from the variable that we got that holds all the records, and we map it. And then we set e to JSON and pass it to a list. So we now have a list. In basically what happens is that now on our backend, we'll expect a list of JSON objects. So whatever we're doing here is more of cleaning, just like in the previous one, casting it in a way that we want it to be represented in our backend. Now that we have that, we can now use the HTTP service to pass our data. But before that, let's create a simple node server for that. So we'll head over to lib, create a simple file called server. Oh, before, let's create a folder instead. New folder. server. Inside this, I'll head over to my terminal, navigate to it. Sorry, let's see. CD lib, I did it on the lib folder. Okay, now we're good. So inside here, I'm going to create a node project, a simple one, by running the command npm init. Make sure you have installed Node.js. That is, if you're using Node as the backend, but in this tutorial, we'll be using Node as the backend. So our package name, we'll just set it to server version 1.0. Description will say get data from Isar database. We set it to index.js. Let's just say if you are using a test framework, we'll use Mocha, maybe. Keywords, Isar, author, Mobtress Studio. Please don't forget to subscribe. License, yes. Now we have our project. It's over here. So we're going to create a file called index.js. Now that we're there, that was quite fast. I hope it was easy to understand. So we'll run something else, npm install just to create the node modules that will the dependencies that we'll need in our projects, the basic ones. Okay, so in our index.js, we're going to first pass a few dependencies. First thing, we're going to install express dependency using npm I express npm save. So the express is used to build RESTful APIs with Node.js. So we use that. After that, we're going to import it. Once this is done, another thing that we will install is the body parser. And also we're going to specify the type of port. And also we'll need to we're going to use, instead of local hosts, we're going to pick the IP address of our local IP address and just add it so that we set up that URL and make it open. So we'll come here and say const express is equals to require express, and then const app, just setting a variable called app and defining it to express. Then we're going to set as port that we will be listening to 5000, and then we're going to import another dependency called body parser. And the work of the body parser, it helps us get information contained in the body of the request. So we'll run that by stating npm install body parser save. The function, whatever code that we're creating for the backend will be very small. Just to give you an idea of how you can get data from the front to the back. So that's that done. So we create a variable that will initialize to the parser equals to require body parser. Great. So we're going to set this up variable to use this body parser to get our information. And we're going to be expecting form of JSON extended true. Okay, now let's create we can first create a simple get just to see if we're getting any information from the backend from the application. We'll set it as products, the endpoint. Remember we're setting up the URL plus the endpoint on the app side. Then create a function that expects two arguments, the rec and res. Rec refers to the data passed to the server through the URL. In our case, it will be the data that will be coming in from the application holding the data from the Isar database, and res is what we use from the server side to now return a response back. So inside here, we can just say something simple as, so let's assume we're not passing anything on the rec. Let's just return a message to the app side just to see if the application has connected successfully to this Node server. Connected successfully. Great. And now the last thing is to listen to this Node server. And we're going to pass it to the port arrow function. And just state something to show that we are listening. Listening on port. Great. So that's our Node server, very simple. So let's head over let's first run this Node server so that it's up and running and can be accessed. Node index. So we're listening on port 500. Great. So back to our app. Over here now we have our list products. We just use our HTTP service. Initiate it. Now we're going to initiate it with the base options. We're going to give it a base URL, a different base URL. If you recall the other one, we were using the fixed API. So in our config, we'll head over to our config. And set a simple string called server URL is equals to HTTP. Get your local IP for now because we're doing everything locally, 168. But if you have hosted it, just pick the correct URL. 100, 170. So that's mine. Just pick this, pass it here. Okay. Next thing is we're now going to because the data that I've received is in form of a list. I just want to make it easier for me to get this information. So what I'm going to do is state map string dynamic my params is equals to a key called products that holds a whole array. In our case, on the dat side, it's a list, and then on the node side, it considers it as an array. So this is the key that we'll use to get this. Okay, so now let's get our response from the backend. So final response is equals to await HTTP service dot request, and our endpoint will be, let me show you, on index.js, our endpoint will be this, but now we'll set yes, will be products, and then our method, we set it as get right now, but it's supposed to be post, but we just want to see if you're connected to the node server successfully, then we'll switch it up. Method.get. Yeah, let's not pass the params first. Let's just first see if that is working. And then next thing is, and that's a mistake on my part. So the last thing is now to, let's use logger to actually print out and see what we're getting. So logger response. As you can see, we haven't used this function yet. So what we're going to do is, like in the previous part where at the action part on the upper, we added an icon button that represents download. So now we're going to create another one that represents upload and inject it with this function, so that you can see how, so that you can get our response and see if our function is working. So we'll pick this, go to our action, create another icon button, that, then we'll state const icon icons dot upload. Let's see if there's, so if you check on our screen, you can see now we have an arrow or an action, call to action, that aims with an arrow that aims upwards, meaning we're removing data and sending it somewhere else. So when we click on this, we should expect some response of some sort, or it will help us know whether we have connected to the backend successfully. So let's click on that, and then let's head over to back to our project and see. Nothing yet. So our node server is running properly. Let's do that again and see. So icon button, Isar. Final product. Okay. List. Mhm. It could be possible it's because there are no records right now because we refreshed the app. Let me try and just create this HTTP service, comment this out first, and this, and see if we can get anything. Nope. Server URL. Oh, we set the port to 500 instead of 5,000. Good Lord. Okay. So let's just undo whatever we did. If you look at our logs, let's try again. I'm clicking on the call to action, and there it is, connected successfully. We have a small bug, but be able to sort it out. It's not actually a bug, I'm sorry. But now we have our message connected successfully. So we are reaching to the backend. So last thing now is to push. So what we want to do, we want to go back to our backend. We're not supposed to use a get, we're supposed to use a post. First things first. And then, because post is the one that you use if you are getting data, you're getting data from the backend and you want to use it, getting data from somewhere else and want to use it on the backend. In short, we want to post means that you have an amount of data that you want to push to the backend. So it should be expected on this function with the endpoint of products. And then we're going to set rest.send connected success. So instead of connected successfully, you can say data received. We want to come here and see if our parameters will be received. So what we'll do is just do a console.log rec.body because we expect our params to be in the body dot products. I'll show you where that. So dot products, what this refers to this, where we actually set our params to hold. All this will be held by the key products, and that's how we're receiving it. So we should be able to get all our products when you console.log over here. And so let's try that. So we'll change this to post. Params. That's the only thing we have changed. Let's see if, and we changed, made a change on our backend. So let's run it again so that it can take up the changes. And we have made our change here. Let's reload. And let's try again. So when we click on this, it's currently empty, and that makes sense because if you head over to our app, we haven't imported any data. Currently it's empty. We refreshed the application, so everything is, there are no records in any of our collections. So let's import from our Fixed API and see if we upload to the backend, we'll be able to get the data that we actually have stored on the products collection. So let's do that. We'll import. There we have our products, and then now we'll just export. And as you can see, let me share my screen. As you can see, here are all our items. Let me extend this. The backend was able to receive all our products from ID 1 to ID 6 because we had set the limit to 6. So there we have it. We have been able to not only get our data from our products collection, but we have also been able to export this data to our simple backend that we've created. And now inside here, you're able to you can do several things. You can manipulate the data as you wish. You can use this data and sync it to an online database or a database in the server. It's on you, to your choosing. So you're choosing whatever now you do with this data. Other than that, we are done. I hope you really enjoyed, and I hope it was short and sweet. See you on the next one.